Hello everyone, welcome back. I want to give you guys my initial impressions on the Smith & Wesson EZ9, and it's got this long name. It's like M&P 2.0 9 Shield EZ at the end. I'm just going to call it the EZ9. And I consider this to be the first true ladies gun. Okay, so it's a great gun for women. That was my initial impression. I think that's what they were going for. And let me give you guys a story. I got a call a couple of days ago to go to a range and train somebody who just bought his first gun. When I spoke to him on the phone, he told me he had the M&P 2.0, which is accurate because it's actually somewhere in the name of this EZ9. So, I thought he had the standard one. When I got to the range, I take the gun out of the box. I opened it up to make sure that there's no round in the chamber. And when I rack the slide open, I'm like, wow, this thing is like really easy to open up. I look at the top of the magazine and I see that it's got some orange coloring. And I'm thinking to myself, is this like a 22 version or something? And then I turned the gun to the side. I looked a little closer at the slide, and I see where it says EZ. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard of this gun. Of course, I'm thinking this to myself. This guy had this EZ9, and his situation was he wasn't specifically looking for an EZ9. He just concluded that, hey, with this whole coronavirus business going on, things are getting a little unpredictable. He decided that he needed a gun right now, for home protection. So he went to the gun store, and this is what they gave him. So that's, which is a very typical situation. I've been seeing that pretty regularly over the last 6 to 8 weeks. I just want to give you guys my initial impression. The gun does live up to what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to be a gun with a really easy to open slide. Basically, it feels like a 22. I got a 22 here. You pull open the slide, it feels just like this 22 feels over here. So it's got an easy slide to rack. And the magazine basically has a load assist. So basically, you see how this 22 has this little thumb thing that you pull it down and you load the 22s one at a time. Well, this has it on both sides, okay? So the idea is that you have this on both sides, and as you're loading it up and you're pulling it down, it's easier to load. Now, initially, the guy, throughout the course of training, when he was trying to load it, he was only using the thumb on one side, and he was finding it quite difficult, or not difficult, like just normal. And I told him, well, why don't you try pulling down on both sides? And when he was doing that, it became a lot easier. So the gun does live up to what it's supposed to do. Easy to rack slide, easy to load magazine. Now the drawback is that it only comes with a 8-round magazine, and I found that pretty strange. First of all, it is it's a single stack 8-round magazine. The gun is about the size of a Glock 19. Now I have my Glock 17. I didn't have the 19 with me. I kind of sized it up. It was, I would say, it was just a little bit smaller than my 17. But I had the holster for the Glock 17, and when I put the EZ9 into the Glock holster, it fit it perfectly. So basically, your Glock holsters will fit the EZ9. Okay. And the other thing I saw is when I looked at it, I mean, it kind of, it's not like it went into the holster and there was a lot of play on each side. It fit it like perfectly. So it's the same thickness as a Glock, okay? Which I'm thinking this is, the gun is easy to rack the slide, easy to load the magazine, but for only 8 rounds, this is a very big gun. So initially I'm thinking that was a bad thing, but then I'm thinking that, I've got lots of women that show up and they've got the regular Shield 9s, and because the gun is so small and light, the recoil tends to be a lot more for a little bit too much for them. Now obviously I had a guy shooting here. I didn't have a woman shooting, but I'm thinking that the large size of the gun might actually be a benefit to most women. You have the gun only holds 8 rounds, so it's easy to load, but it's about the size of a Glock 19, so it has that extra weight to pick up, that extra mass basically to pick up the recoil. So although initially I don't like it. I wouldn't recommend this for most guys. But I think that this is I think that weight, that size and weight is going to be really good for women. For a lot of women, because for a lot of women, it's not an issue. I've had plenty of women I've trained on Glock 17s, Glock 19s, and other guns, even 1911s, and they had no problem working the gun. But just some women, they don't, they're not able to rack the slide. Also, a lot of older men are not able to rack the slide, or sometimes I'll get people that have like carpal tunnels or something, or they have a hand injury, and they're also having problems loading up the magazine, or racking the slide. So this gun definitely fits a niche. Okay, it is the first true ladies gun, and I'm not saying this as an insult to older guys or people with hand injuries that might be using this gun. I'm saying the ladies gun so that just to make it clear and obvious that if a woman can easily load and rack the slide, and if you have an injury, you'll be able to do it too, most likely. Okay. So that's the first thing. The gun accomplishes what it sets out to do. So next, let me talk to you guys a little bit about the trigger. And here's the interesting thing. Before I did this video, I looked up. I wanted to see what the price of this gun was. The guy paid $600. He obviously paid Corona prices for this gun, because when I looked it up, it said $400 for the gun. Now he did have like night sights on the gun. I don't know if that bumped up the price a little bit. I don't think that's the night sights may not be standard, but he paid $600. When I was googling it, the price I saw was about $400. My gut feeling is I wouldn't want to pay more than $300 for that gun for me, because like if I was gonna buy that gun, and I might buy that gun just so that I can train, I can have female shooters try it out. But I'm not going to do that unless it gets the price gets a lot closer to $300. It's just not, it's just not worth it for me. But for some people, that $400, it might be worth it for him. Obviously, for this guy, $600, he's like, I need a gun right now. I'm going to get it. So when I looked up the price, I was looking through the detail, and one of the things that it said in the description is that it had a crisp reset. Okay, so when you pull the trigger, you let it out, it had a crisp reset. And when in the copy that I was handling, the one that I shot, because I actually got to shoot this gun, it did not have a crisp reset. Like with the Glock, when you rack the slide, you pick up the slack, you hit the wall over there, you press the trigger, you break it, and then when you let it out, you can hear the click, you can feel the click. On this particular trigger, when I was squeezing it, it just like it crept, it had a bunch of mush basically. It crept up, it tightened up, so there was definitely a resistance that was building up, and at some point, basically the hammer dropped. Oh, by the way, it is, even though it looks like a striker fire gun, it is, when you open it up, there's actually an internal hammer, so it's a hammer fire gun. Not that I think it's a big deal, but, initially you would think it's a striker fire gun, but it is hammer fired. So, back to the trigger, I couldn't, I was working it, I was like literally doing, I was squeezing it, basically trying to find where that trigger reset was. I could not find it. I had the guy try to find it. He could not find it. So I think that, I'm pretty sure that that's probably how that trigger is, and what I read about it in the description is probably an error. They probably made a mistake when they printed that. But anyway, that's something for you guys to try out if you're interested in this gun. Obviously rack the slide. Try pulling down the magazine, because it's really easy to pull it down. You can pull it down. You can see how hard or easy to pull it down. And squeeze that trigger. Make sure you're comfortable with the trigger. I mean, it's an easy trigger. It's not, it's not a double action trigger. It's basically it's a single action gun. I don't know if it really is a single action gun. It might be like a Glock action trigger, but it has a hammer inside. And the interesting story, the way I found out about the hammer, is because at some point I was talking to the guy about cleaning the gun, and I wanted to show him how to take it apart. And the takedown is similar to the 9 Shield. you pull it back, lock it back, you flip this down, and then what happens is the slide just comes out. So and then when you take it apart, it's just like a Glock. You got your barrel, you got your spring, so it comes apart really easy. The hard part was putting it back together, okay? And you think that it wouldn't be hard to put back together. But here's the interesting thing. That Easy 9 gun, it has a backstrap safety, like this 1911, okay? It has a backstrap safety, and the one that I got to try out, it had the thumb safety on it as well. Some versions have the thumb safety, other versions do not have it. This one had it. But the thing I want to talk to you guys about is the backstrap safety. So here's the interesting thing. When you're putting the gun back together, right, when you're trying to run the slide back on, you cannot be holding the thumb safety down, because what it does when you press it down, it lifts something up inside and it stops the slide from coming back. So it took me about like 15 minutes, like I'm sitting there, I'm trying to make it work, because naturally as you're sliding it back, you're pressing down on the backstrap. And again, I did not know what this guy bought. I thought he had bought a different gun based on my phone conversation. Otherwise, I would have had a chance to research this a little bit. So I'm holding it down, and I'm having a real hard time getting that slide to go back on there. And at some point, by some luck, I figured out that if you don't hold the back strap down, the slide just goes straight back. So that's the key, and one of the things that will confuse some people. If you take the gun apart, when you're putting the slide back on, you don't hold the back strap safety down, and that's how it's going to go back on. Okay, so that's the thing as far as putting it back together. Now, the other thing I want to mention about the back strap safety, right? It's like a 1911. It's got that little thing there. With this 1911, okay, if I cock the gun, and if I just want to check to make sure that the gun's not loaded, right? So typically I'll check the chamber, point in the safe direction, dry fire it. Okay. Usually, if I'm doing this without really that much fall, like just it's almost automatic for me. Cock the slide back, point in the safe direction, dry fire it. I've never had an issue with a 1911 when I didn't grip the gun hard enough to not activate the backstrap safety. When I did it with this guy's gun, and again, not putting too much thought into it, just grab the gun, rack the slide, I'm like, and all of a sudden the hammer is not falling. I'm like, what's going on? And what happened is, I apparently was not holding that backstrap safety down tight enough. So that backstrap safety, it's a lot more pronounced than what's on the 1911. It takes a little bit more pressure than what this takes. So that's one thing that stood out to me. Okay, in order for that gun to work, you have to make sure you're firmly holding down the backstrap safety, which in a self-defense situation can be an issue. Especially if you're like in a grappling situation where somebody's like, trying to stab you or hitting you over the head over here, and you come into your holster, you come up, and you kind of grab your gun, you're in an awkward position, maybe like falling back, and you don't get a good grip on your gun, and you don't activate that backstrap safety, the gun may not work. Okay, so that's just something that you really just got to be aware with that gun. When you go into that holster, before you pull the gun out of the holster, you got to make sure that you got a firm grip that activates that backstrap safety. So again, like I said, that's something that stood out. The other thing that stood out on the thumb safety that this gun had, like this version had, because not all of them have it. It's very 1911 like, and I don't like the thumb safety. Usually when I see safeties on guns, because in a lot of states you cannot, in order for them to sell you a gun in some states, it has to have a safety on it. So what they'll do is they'll take something, let's say like the S&W Shield, and they'll put a little safety in here that's really like tucked in out of the way. It's really not meant for you to be used. It's not really meant for you to use. It's just there because the law in that state requires it. The safety for a striker-fired gun like this is the holster. Like, for example, with this Glock over here, the Glock basically does not have a safety on it. Basically, when it's in the holster, you use a hard Kydex holster, right? It can't be leather, it can't be fabric. A hard plastic holster so you can't get to that safety. So that's the safety mechanism of this gun. So for that gun, I would recommend the same, using the same safety mechanism. I would recommend buying it without the safety, without the thumb safety rather, right? And getting a hard Kydex holster that's designed specifically for that gun. And like I said earlier, the Glock 17, Glock 19 holsters fit that gun perfectly. The reason why I don't like these thumb safeties, okay, because here's the thing, I don't mind having like a gun, let's say like this Shield 9, right? If that's got a safety on it that is out of the way, and you truly don't have, you don't have to use it if you don't want to use it, and there's no chance of you accidentally activating it, I don't mind that. But in a gun like the 1911, right, if you got this gun in the holster, so even if you have, let's say, a hard Kydex holster, right, that protects the trigger guard, there's too much of a chance that you are going to hit this either on or off, either way. So if you're carrying this gun in the holster with the thumb safety on, okay, there's a good chance that at some point it might get hit and you might knock it off, okay? But that's fine if it's in a hard Kydex holster with a thumb guard, where the trigger guard is covered. But you can also have the other situation. You can choose, right? Let's say I get a hard Kydex holster, right, that covers the trigger guard, and I say, okay, even though this gun has a thumb safety, I'm not going to use this thumb safety. I'm just going to keep this down and off. Okay, so I got in the Kydex holster. The trigger guard is covered, but something happens and this accidentally gets hit, and that's really easy to happen. You swipe the thing and you just hit it up like this. So you think that the safety is off at some point during the day. You strike it, or it gets struck and it goes back on, and then when you need that gun, you come out of the holster thinking that your safety is off when in fact it's on, and now you're pulling the trigger and it's not working, and you're not even thinking safety because you haven't been training with the safety on. You've been training with the safety off, with the holster being the safety. So that's where a thumb safety can really be confusing. If you get a gun with a thumb safety, what I usually recommend is that when you hold it, right, the thumb rides on top of the safety. So drill it like that. When you come out of holster, you come out, thumb is riding on top of your safety. That's how the 1911 is really meant to be used, with this thumb riding on top of the safety, pushing it down. I mean, I don't like it, but that's how 1911 users typically use this. I mean, the truth is, when I shoot the 1911, I just hold it the way I hold a Glock. Both thumbs pointed forward like that. But yeah, this is meant for the thumb to be riding on top. Yeah, if you're gonna buy that gun, I recommend getting it without the thumb safety and just getting a Kydex holster for it. If you do buy that gun, the EZ9, with the thumb safety, I'm gonna recommend that you just practice shooting it with your thumb riding on top of the safety, so that there's no chance that when you draw the gun out of the holster, the safety is gonna be on. When you don't think it's on. So there are my thoughts on that. I mean, I think it's a great gun. It fits that niche. It fits that niche for people that need an easy slide to rack, easy magazine to load. The gun has some size to it, which which I think will be beneficial to women because it absorbs that recoil. Now, for somebody like me, if I'm gonna get a gun the size of a Glock 19, I want 15 rounds in a magazine. I want a 15-round magazine. It doesn't make sense for me to get a gun the size of a Glock 19 that's only gonna have 8 rounds. Okay, so that's my opinion on that. So if you guys got any thoughts, comments, feedback, put it in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you guys. And it helps when you guys comment, even if it's something like, hey, good video, whatever, because the more activity the video this video has, what happens is it gets more suggested, so more people get to see this video. And I don't make any money or anything like this. I don't monetize this channel. I'm just trying to get this information out there. That's the whole point of this channel. The whole point of this channel is to bring more people to our game, basically, to grow our community. That's why I do what I do. I don't make these videos to make money. In fact, you guys will never see me promoting myself. I don't say, okay, here's my phone number, call me up if you need gun training or something. I don't do that here. because that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm not trying to sell my business. I'm trying to just bring more people into our community, because what happens, the more people we bring in, what happens is those people come in and they end up voting in favor of gun rights and electing politicians that will protect our gun rights. So that's why I do what I do. So if you guys are not members of the channel, please subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.